Tom was a man of strict habits. He lived in a small, quiet town called Oakwood. In Oakwood, time seemed to move more slowly than in the rest of the world. Everyone knew everyone else's name, their favorite food, and even their dog's birthday. Tom worked in a small, tidy office with white walls and a clock that ticked loudly every second. He ate at the same corner table at Bruno's Cafe every single morning, ordering exactly one coffee and one piece of dry toast. Every evening at 6:00 p.m., he walked the same gray stone path back to his silent house. Tom was 30 years old, but his world was very small. He had never seen the crashing waves of the ocean or the white snow on top of a high mountain. In fact, he had never crossed the border of Oakwood. To Tom, the world outside was a mystery that he didn't need to solve. Why leave? He often asked his mother during their weekly Sunday lunch. Everything I need is right here. My bed is soft and familiar, the coffee at Bruno's is always the same temperature, and I never get lost because I know every street and every tree. But deep inside, in a place he didn't like to talk about, Tom felt a little bit empty. One rainy Tuesday, while the wind was howling outside, he was cleaning his dusty attic. Behind a stack of old newspapers, he found a book with a bright, torn cover. It was a travel book about a country far away called The Land of Blue Valleys. As he turned the pages, his heart began to race. The pictures were incredible. There were markets full of mountains of colorful spices, golden temples that touched the clouds, and people with wide smiles dancing under a bright, orange sun. For the first time in his life, Tom felt a spark of curiosity. He looked at his small, clean room and then looked out at his gray, rainy town. Suddenly, Oakwood felt like a cage. I am going, Tom said to the empty, quiet room. I am going to the land of blue valleys. The next month was a whirlwind of activity and nervous energy. Tom did things he had never done before. He bought a large, bright blue backpack with many pockets. He bought a pair of sturdy brown walking shoes that felt heavy on his feet. He went to the bank, looked at his savings, and took out every dollar. His friends were shocked and worried. Tom, you don't speak a word of their language, said his friend Peter, shaking his head. Tom, the world is dangerous for a man traveling all alone. Think about your safety, said his neighbor Martha, her eyes wide with concern. Tom was scared, too. Every night, he had vivid dreams of getting lost in dark alleys or falling out of a giant airplane. His hands shook when he held his passport. But he didn't stop. He booked a flight with a determined heart. It was a one-way ticket because he didn't know when or if he would want to come back. On the day of his departure, the sun was rising slowly over the familiar rooftops of Oakwood. Tom stood at the bus station, his big blue bag feeling like a heavy friend on his back. He felt like a different person already. He was no longer Tom the office worker who worried about paper clips. He was Tom the traveler. The journey was long and exhausting. He took a bumpy bus, then a fast train, and finally a massive airplane that roared as it took off. He sat by the window for 15 hours, watching the clouds change shape. He saw the world from above for the first time, the vast forests, the winding rivers, and the lights of cities he couldn't name. The world was huge, and for the first time, Tom felt small in a good way. When Tom stepped off the plane in the capital city of the land of blue valleys, the heat hit him like a warm wave. The air was thick and smelled of exotic spices, sweet jasmine, and wood smoke. The noise was incredible and overwhelming. People were shouting in a beautiful, musical language, silver horns were honking in traffic, and drums were playing in the distance. Wow, Tom whispered, his eyes wide with wonder. He walked out of the airport, feeling the sun on his skin. He found a small, crowded bus to take him to the city center. The seats were hard, and the bus was painted in bright colors. He sat down and put his blue bag on the seat next to him, holding the strap tightly at first. But then he got distracted. He began looking out the window, amazed by the tall palm trees, the bright blue houses, and the children playing in the streets. When the bus stopped at a busy, dusty square, Tom saw the great fountain in the distance. It was even more beautiful than in the book. He got off the bus quickly, wanting to take a photo. He walked for 10 minutes, feeling very proud of his bravery. Then he stopped. He felt light. His shoulders felt too free. He reached back, but there was nothing there. He looked at his shoulders. The straps were gone. He looked at his hands. They were empty. A cold feeling of horror washed over him. "My bag!" Tom cried out, but no one understood him. "I left my bag on the bus." He ran back to the street as fast as he could, but the colorful bus was gone. It was lost in a sea of traffic. In that bag, Tom had everything he owned for this trip. He had his extra clothes, his expensive camera, his detailed maps, and, most importantly, his wallet with all his money. He only had his passport in his pocket and a few small coins. Tom sat on a hard stone bench. The sun was now very hot and felt cruel. He felt very small and very alone. He didn't know where to go, and he didn't know how to ask for help. He put his face in his hands and began to cry. "I should have stayed in Oakwood," he thought, his body shaking. Everyone was right. The world is too big, too loud, and too scary for someone like me. Tom sat on that bench for a long time, watching the shadows grow longer. The sky turned from a bright blue to a deep, dusty orange. He was hungry, his throat was dry, and he felt like a ghost in a city of millions. Suddenly, a shadow fell over him. He looked up, expecting someone to tell him to move. Instead, he saw an old man wearing a simple, clean white shirt and a straw hat. The man had a very kind face, with deep wrinkles around his eyes that looked like they were made from years of laughing. "Hello," the man said in English. His voice was as soft as a breeze. "You look like a man who has lost a dragon." Tom wiped his eyes with his sleeve, feeling embarrassed. "Not a dragon. Just a bag. My only bag. I have nothing left. No money, no clothes, nothing." The old man sat down next to him on the bench. "I am Malik. Losing a bag is a bad thing, yes. But losing your hope is much worse. You cannot solve a problem with tears. Come. My house is very near. My wife, Zara, is making a big pot of soup. You cannot think clearly on an empty stomach." Tom was hesitant. Back in Oakwood, he had been told 1,000 times never to talk to strangers, especially in foreign countries. He thought about Peter's warnings. But Malik's eyes were warm and honest, like the eyes of a grandfather. Tom had no other choice. He stood up and followed Malik through a maze of narrow, winding streets that smelled of baking bread. Malik's house was small and simple, but it was full of golden light and the smell of herbs. His wife, Zara, smiled broadly when she saw Tom. She didn't ask questions, she simply gave him a large ceramic bowl of thick yellow soup and a piece of warm, crusty bread. It was the most delicious meal Tom had ever tasted in his entire life. It tasted like safety. "Thank you," Tom said, his voice trembling. "But I don't have any money to pay you for this." Malik laughed, a deep and happy sound. "In my country, we have a saying, a guest is a gift from God. You do not pay for a gift, Tom. You just enjoy it." Tom stayed with Malik and Zara for 3 days. It was not the vacation he had planned, but it was the one he needed. Malik helped Tom go to the police station to report the lost bag. He sat with Tom for hours, translating the officer's questions and helping him call his bank back in Oakwood to stop his credit cards. But Malik did much more than just help with paperwork. Every morning, he took Tom to the local market. He showed Tom how to eat sweet mangoes with a pinch of salt and chili. He showed him how to walk through the crowded streets with confidence, smiling at the people he passed. "You see, Tom," Malik said one evening as they sat on the roof watching the bright stars. "You thought that blue bag was your life. You thought it was your protection. But look at you now. You have no bag, no fancy camera, and no maps. But you are still here. You are eating well, you are laughing with us, and you are learning things no book can teach you." Tom realized Malik was right. Because he had lost his things, he was forced to talk to people. He had to ask for help, and every time he did, he was surprised. The lady at the fruit stall gave him an extra apple when she saw he was hungry. A young boy on the street used hand gestures to show him the beautiful way to the park. The world wasn't a scary place full of thieves and shadows. It was a place full of people who were just like him, people who wanted to help, to share, and to connect. On the morning of the fourth day, Tom received a surprising call. The police had found his bag. A kind bus driver had seen it on the back seat and turned it in at the end of his shift. When Tom went to the station, everything was still inside: his clothes, his camera, and even his wallet. Tom was happy to have his things back, but he felt a strange sadness, too. Having his bag made him feel like a tourist again, but his time with Malik had made him feel like a friend. It was time to return to Oakwood. He went back to Malik's house to say a final goodbye. He tried to give Malik some of the money from his wallet as a thank you, but Malik firmly shook his head and pushed Tom's hand away. "If you truly want to thank me," Malik said, looking Tom directly in the eyes, "go back to your home and be kind to a stranger in your own town. Show them the same heart we showed you. That is the only payment I want." Tom hugged Malik and Zara tightly. He felt a heavy lump in his throat. He promised to write long letters and send pictures of Oakwood. The long flight back to his home country felt completely different this time. Tom didn't spend the whole journey looking at the clouds or worrying about his luggage. Instead, he started a conversation with the person sitting in the next seat. It was a young woman traveling to start university. They talked for hours about their dreams and their fears. For the first time, Tom wasn't afraid of the unknown. When Tom finally arrived back in Oakwood, the town looked exactly the same as when he had left. The gray streets were still there, the clock in his office was still ticking, and the coffee at Bruno's was still the same temperature. But Tom was not the same man. He walked into Bruno's cafe on his first morning back. "Hey, Tom. You're alive," Bruno shouted from behind the counter. "How was that crazy trip? Did you get robbed? Did you get lost? I told everyone it was a dangerous idea." Tom smiled a wide, peaceful smile and sat down at a new table, near the window where he could see the street. "I did lose my bag, Bruno. I lost everything for a few days. But I found something much more valuable." "Oh yeah? What's that? Gold? Jewels?" Bruno asked, leaning forward. "No," Tom said softly. "I found that the world is very big, but it is also very, very kind. I found that we are never truly alone if we are willing to talk to a stranger." Tom didn't go back to his old, lonely routine. He started a small club in the library for people who wanted to travel but were afraid. He helped a new family from a different country move into the house next door, bringing them a hot meal just like Zara had done for him. He walked through Oakwood with his head held high, always looking at the horizon, no longer afraid of what was around the corner. Tom had left Oakwood to see the world, but he came back and brought the spirit of the world with him. He realized that home isn't just a place where you are safe from change, it's a place where you can open your heart to everyone you meet. The trip had changed everything. And for Tom, a much bigger life was just beginning. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. It really helps the channel. Thank you for watching and see you next time.